Hello, thanks for joining me for another session about semi-passive water treatment. Today we're going to be talking about setting goals and defining questions for water treatment. So of course we're going to be talking a lot about potatoes. Okay, bear with me. This is an analogy, but I hope it'll help out given that we're trying to cover this in only a few minutes. Every site that I go to, we start out with being asked, can you treat zinc, vanadium, cyanide, naphthenic acids, copper, selenium, uranium, all these different constituents. I could list the whole periodic table plus many other types of organics. The thing is, that's a little bit like asking a chef, can you cook me a potato? Yes, water treatment systems can treat those things. Semi-passive treatment systems can treat most of those things, other than the salts, as I've mentioned before. But the real question is, what is your goal? So if you go to a chef and you gave him a potato and said, can you cook this potato? Let's just say you start with that. If you were expecting a mashed potato, but they give you a baked potato, are you going to be happy with the outcome? Some people might be. They weren't specific about it. But unless you accurately define what success looks like, you're never going to be able to achieve it. I've seen a lot of semi-passive treatment systems over the years where I've been brought in to optimize them, and sometimes they've been viewed as a failure. And I give the air quotes because you can't really fail if you don't have a definition of what success would be. So these have failed to meet one person's expectations while meeting another person's or groups. So clearly defining amongst all parties what success looks like is most important from the get-go. So when I get a clear question such as, can you treat this constituent starting at this concentration to that concentration in this volume with this total water chemistry, that I can answer that sort of question. I can design a system too. So similarly, if you wanted to cook a potato, you might end up with a baked potato, mashed potato, hash browns, French fries. I'm probably missing a few things. Potato pancakes, potato pasta. I'm not even sure if that's a thing. Pretty sure someone could do that. But you could have all sorts of different types of potato. And so similarly, if you wanted to treat something like copper, it could be treated as a sulfide, as an oxide, co-precipitated to iron or manganese. It could be removed by filtration or sorption. So many different ways you could deal with it. So depending what your end goal is and your end concentration and the end stability, the end use is really going to influence that. Likewise, it depends what you have available. So you couldn't make French fries if all you had was water. If someone said, here's a potato, there's a pot of boiling water, and make me French fries. You can't do that. So same thing with water treatment. You need to consider what you have available to you and what your resources are. Finally, if you went to talk with a really good chef, they would say it depends on what type of potato you even have. And that matters a lot with things, as an analogy, like selenium or arsenic, where you can have different speciation states. So many chefs would say, well, you have a russet potato, you're gonna use that for a baked potato. If you have a Yukon Gold, you're not gonna mash that. You're gonna make French fries. So making sure you have the right mixture of starting type of potato and end use and goal. So for example, with selenium, you are going to normally approach selenate or especially selenate, but selenite with a reductive process. Selenite could be approached with a sorptive process to iron, and selenocyanate has to be oxidized before you can do anything with it. So that would be like 3 different types of potatoes. You're not going to do the same thing with them, even though they're all potatoes. So hopefully that's not more confusing than it is helpful, but I thought it's hopefully a useful analogy because often it comes back, why is water treatment so complicated? Why do you need all this information? Well, you know what? Even if you want to cook a potato, you need a lot of information. You just consider it to be secondhand because you've been through it before. And all those questions like, do you have oil? Do you have water? Do you want it baked, mashed, fried? You get asked that every time you go into a restaurant. Well, they don't ask you about the water or oil. You assume they have it. But do you want it baked, mashed, fried, whatever else? You get asked that every time you go in a restaurant, so you just think that complexity is normal. The questions we ask in water treatment have similar complexities, but they just need to be simplified in a decision matrix, which thankfully can be done in semi-passive treatment or active treatment. But that's all I have to say about potatoes for now. Thanks very much for listening, and thanks for continuing to join us on these videos.